Hi, Chemistry 111. My name is Mr. Dion. I'll be your instructor for this fall semester, and I just want to go over some of the high points of the syllabus with you. I expect you to read the syllabus in its entirety on your own time. Historically, Chemistry 111 has been taught exclusively as a face-to-face course at PPCC, but on account of the COVID-19 pandemic, the course will be taught using multiple modalities, and these modalities will consist of online lectures on Microsoft Teams during regularly scheduled class time, YouTube videos, and face-to-face labs. Also, this semester, we're going to be using what's called Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor for our exams, which will be written completely online in efforts to reduce our contact on campus. Instructions pertaining to Respondus are found at the end of this syllabus, and of course, be patient as there may be changes in the syllabus throughout the fall semester because we don't know what's going to happen over the next few months on account of the pandemic. Our lecture days are Tuesday and Thursday from 5 to 6:50 p.m. And some of the lectures will be held on Microsoft Teams. And if you click on the link that's shown right here, it should open the Microsoft Teams page, and I will accept you into the class's Microsoft Teams page. Now, as far as these Microsoft Teams lectures go, these will mostly be held on Thursdays. So these will mostly be held on Thursdays. And if you're wondering, well, what about Tuesday? Well, Tuesday we have lab at 7 p.m. And if class ends at 6:50 p.m. and I have to be in the lab at 7 p.m., well, I'm going to be lecturing from my house on Microsoft Teams, so it's a little too short of a period of time for me to be able to get to the lab at 7 p.m. And so on Tuesdays, oftentimes I will post the recorded lecture ahead of time so that you can watch that, and that way I'll be able to get to the lab on time. The lab is at the Rampart Ridge campus in room W213. Here's my name, Mr. Dion, first name Mr., last name Dion. Here's my email address here. And if you want to meet with me, you have to make an appointment as I am an adjunct faculty at PPCC. There are some important dates, including the drop date and the withdraw date and holidays as well. Of course, in order to take a chemistry class, you need a textbook. And the textbook that we use is the 13th edition of the Chang chemistry textbook. So it's Chemistry 13th edition, and the author is Raymond Chang. And the book is available as an ebook format, and it's also available in a split edition at the bookstore. So that means that you can buy just the chapters that pertain to Chemistry 111. If you're going to be taking Chemistry 112 next semester, it's a good idea to buy the full textbook. You can also use an old edition. You could use the 12th or the 11th edition. That will work as well. You also need a lab manual for a chemistry class, but the good news is that it's free of charge and it is available on D2L, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. You also need a laboratory notebook, a scientific calculator, and some safety goggles. Of course, on account of the pandemic, you need a good, reliable internet connection in order to participate in synchronous lectures, in order to watch the videos, and of course, in order to take the exams, which are also on D2L. The assignment grades for our class are shown right here. We have a total of 5 exams. I drop one of them, and that makes up 50% of your grade. Labs make up 20% of your grade. Then we have a lab practical, where you get to apply what you've learned in the other labs. That's worth 5% of your grade. We have quizzes, which are actually homework assignments, but they're under the quizzes tab in D2L. And then, of course, we have a final exam, and it is the ACS final exam, or American Chemical Society final exam. I think it would be very wise to print the next 2 pages. Here is our lecture schedule for this fall, so you can see that on August 25th, we're going to meet on Microsoft Teams for about an hour to discuss the introduction, syllabus, and schedule, and we'll also talk about Chapter 1. You can see that we have our first exam on September 3rd, and that is going to cover the content in Chapter 1 and some of Chapter 2. So wherever we get to in Chapter 2 on September 1st, that is the content that will be covered on Exam 1. The next slide covers the lab schedule. It's also a good idea to print out this page. You can see that we have two different groups or cohorts, if you will. Group A, if your last name begins with A to D, you're going to be in Group A. And if your last name begins with F to Z, you're going to be in Group B. So let's say, for example, your last name started with the letter B. Let's say it was Barnes. Your first lab day would be when? It would be August 25th. Let's say your last name started with the letter S. If your last name was Smith, then your first day in the lab would be September 1st. There's all kinds of information here about the lab, some lab guidelines and lab safety. I expect you to read all of this, and we'll go over this in even more detail when we meet in the lab for the first time. And then, of course, as I promised, the last part of the syllabus deals with the instructions for Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor, which you will use to take your exams. Here's our Class D2L page. Right away, you can see that I posted an announcement. I expect you to read the entire thing. Again, I have the link for Microsoft Teams in here. And if you look in the third paragraph, it says it would be a good idea to read Chapter 1 in the textbook. It would also be wise to read the lab safety, lab notebook, and report and graphing guidelines, which are found in the Inquiry Lab Manual. I recommend reading that as soon as possible. There's also a link to the syllabus and schedule, which I just showed you. And then if you really want to get ahead, you could start by looking at practice problems from Chapter 1. And I have the solutions to those practice problems posted in the course content. So if you look at the next announcement, I have some suggested problems from the 13th edition of Chang, or our textbook. And I would recommend doing all of those problems. And if you go in here, if you look at the top, it says Course Home. And then if you click on Content, you'll see the syllabus and schedule. You'll see all of my lecture slides are posted here, as well as the Inquiry Lab Manual is posted here. What else? I have all kinds of files pertaining to the lab, a safety quiz that you have to complete by September 8th, and I'll give you more information on that later. Again, you see the suggested practice problems are posted here, the solutions to the practice problems. Another tab that's going to be really important for you is the quizzes tab, because this is where you will find your homework. And so if we click on that, you can see the safety quiz comes up right away. You need to complete that safety quiz by September 8th, and you can see all of the homework assignments are posted in here as well. I also have some of the exams posted, and of course those don't open until the day of the exam, and I will post some practice exams in here as well. And so there you have it. That's a brief overview of D2L and the syllabus and schedule. And again, we're going to be meeting on Microsoft Teams on August 25th, starting at 5 p.m.